Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Level Up. I'm Brian Prairie.
And I'm Dr. Jeff Williamson.
I am just starting my leadership journey.
And I've been guiding leaders for 30 years.
Our podcast aims to shine a spotlight on outstanding leaders and provide a platform for them to describe their leadership journey and share the guiding principles that have helped them become great leaders.
Today we are joined by Executive Director of the Community Foundation of Kankakee River Valley, Nicole Smolkovich, to discuss her leadership journey. Welcome to the Leadership Level Up podcast. I'm Jeff Williamson. This is my co-host, Brian Prairie. Good to have you with us today. We're meeting with our friend Nicole Smolkovich, who is the Executive Director of the Community Foundation of Kankakee River Valley. I got that all right.
You got it right. Thank you.
Good. It's good to have you with us. We're excited to talk with you about leadership and some of your journey and what you've learned and observed about leaders you've served with and the kind of leader that you want to be. So we'll jump in on some questions here to get a little bit more of your story as we go along and some of your work past, but we'll save that for a little bit later in our conversation. So, okay. Brian, you want to take it away?
Sure. I mean, let's start off with a little bit of background. Well, tell us about what led you to where you are
today.
Yeah,
that's a long journey.
Well, from your bio, I that's why I want to kind of get into that. There's a lot of interesting things there.
Yeah. So I graduated from Millikan University with a degree in music, vocal performance emphasis, and so way different than what I'm doing today.
Mm-hmm.
With that degree, I actually I got tired of the performance part of it, and so I moved on to music store management.
Okay.
And that's really where I first started honing my skills of being a leader.
Okay.
I was in the music store business for, 9.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I, like I said, really learned how to be a leader. It started before that, though. I was a drum major in high school, president of the choir.
See, that's a nugget I didn't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I really started before my work career, right? But then as the music industry was going downhill with digital downloads and all that, piracy at the time, I came back to the area and actually started working for Delaware North companies and at Soldier Field in Chicago. And I was an office manager there, did some HR work. I worked in the comptroller's office and handled millions of dollars on game days. And then I went back to the HR. I kind of had several roles in that environment.
Pretty good education. Really.
Yeah. And then eventually I found my way back to Kankakee. I was born and raised here, Limestone, and went to Herscher.
Okay.
And I came back and decided that I wanted to stay here instead of commuting up north. So I found the Community Foundation as a part-time office manager. I really took a big risk there, but I love it. And from there, I just continue to grow and learn more skills in the nonprofit world and became an executive director in 2014. So,
oh, wow, very cool. I didn't realize that you started as the
office manager.
And then
office manager to a program coordinator about 6 months after I'd started, which got me to a full-time position.
Right.
And then about 5 years later.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you had an opportunity to learn the processes, the systems, the things that were really the office functions from the inside out. So I would guess that helped you later as you became the executive director to know how things flowed and what's coming in at different parts of the year and that kind of thing to help you kind of plan your roles as leadership.
Yeah, I think that's really important is because every role I've ever been in, I've started from the bottom and worked my way up. I don't think anybody should step into a leader position without knowing all the ins and outs of what you're leading. So,
completely agree. Yeah, I equally have that kind of background as well. As like, and I kind of bring that to the people I work with today, and I think there's a common leadership. I don't know if it's a trope, but it's like if you're not willing to do the work, then you really shouldn't ask somebody else to do it either.
Exactly.
So I always treat that as like, if there's a job coming our way, I'm like, am I willing to do this? Okay, then I have to be able to, so.
Yeah, I just had that conversation this morning with my colleague because I was going through these questions and I'm like, what do you think my strengths are? And she goes, you don't ask me to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And I said, boom, yep, that's exactly right. I've always been proud of that.
And that creates a level of respect and collaboration that there's never that sense of like, oh, I don't do that.
Right.
That's down there for you to take care of, because can be such a toxic environment when that's the case, where it's like, what do you need? Let's go. Right. I know you had a recent event, and that was just an opportunity where you and your staff and your board members and those kind of things were helping and hosting and bringing it all together. And for me, it's that beauty of seeing a bunch of different people come together of something that's a big deal for your organization.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned in my years in this position and others, is that if you don't learn how to delegate, you're going to have a really hard time leading others. Right. And that's something I've always had I say maybe that's a weakness at one point. I had a really hard time delegating because I thought I could just do it all myself. And it didn't give anybody else a chance to grow. Right. So that's a hard lesson I've learned in the last few years, and it makes a difference if you give people
that letting
an
go
opportunity.
Sometimes feels risky early on, but then when we realize that our staff has strengths and abilities that are really magnified and they rise to the occasion and thrive, and at times is as good or better than what I would have done. Right. But I didn't know it until I let go.
Exactly.
Say, you know what? You're excited about that part of this event or this program. Think about some ways to kind of make it your own within the constraints that we have to work in.
Yeah.
Right.
Having that pick yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, I know for me has been like, well, I could do this and, this could take me an hour. But if I give it to someone else, it's going to take me, maybe take them 2 or maybe longer. But also it's like, do you have the time to do that? So to me, it was a lot of trying to like unravel myself from some of these things, because I was, I like that I have that mentality of like, I'll do any work that needs to be done, but also you got to figure out too, when is it appropriate for you to start peeling back some of these things and start, like you said, delegating. And I had a real hard struggle with that when I started doing all the things that we're doing here.
Yeah.
So,
it can be very freeing too.
Oh, it was once I figured out how to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it takes me 3 hours to show you how to do it the first couple of times, and I could do it in a half hour, an hour, once we get past that learning curve and now a second and third person knows how to do that aspect, it's not just, oh, good, I don't have to do it. It's that then I can do the things that only I can do, because some roles of various positions would be like, nobody else can sign off on certain things. Nobody else can make certain decisions except for the person who's the CEO.
Yeah.
And when that's the case, then if I'm able to entrust team members with other things that I used to do, and I know they'll do it fine because I've invested in training and coaching them up, that is freeing. Or at least it has been for me.
Yeah, that has been one of the most exciting things I've seen in the last couple of years with the new person that I hired. Right. I try not to hire anybody that I don't think is going to grow. Like I say, you have room to grow here, and if they're willing to put in the work, then I'm willing to put in the work. Right. And what I have seen in the last couple of years with this person has just been incredible.
Yeah, it's been a game changer.
Yeah, and if you're willing to give those opportunities to that person, then the whole organization grows, because it's freed up my time to do the things that I can do to help our organization grow. And it has really shown itself in the last few months, all this hard work that we've been doing.
Yeah. And it absolutely it lets both of you thrive and do more and different things.
Yeah.
And that's fun to watch when that happens, for sure.
And then we kind of overextended ourselves, so now we're looking for somebody else to help
keep growing
grow.
the team.
Well, that's all part of growth.
And so we're just excited.
Yeah.
We're so excited.
I've often, or not often, but like within probably the last 6 months, seeing some of, kind of the fruits of your labor, and like, a team member is, teaching an intern, and whereas before that was my role, which was like, oh, this is great. Like, I love that, like, they're taking initiative and they're asking each other questions, and then I go, oh, cool. And to me, I was like, oh, I nurtured that, but also I have freedom to do the other things that, that was taking away from me. It's like, oh man, so just all of the things, like all the, the nervousness and trepidation I had going into it instantly went away. I was like, oh, this is why I'm doing this.
And you see them joyful.
Yes.
Because it's something they're really good at, or they become really good at, and then that elevates their enjoyment of their work, which is a big part of leadership too. Is where can I help you grow in areas that you're going to love and thrive in?
Yeah.
Because that is more likely a happy employee who stays with the organization for a long time and really contributes some beautiful things.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I've learned is the skill of listening. It's so important, and asking the questions of, what can I do to help you thrive? What, you're working on this project. What do you need help with? And I think that's a sign of a great leader. You have to listen.
Yeah. What do you need? How can I help you? I love that question.
Yeah.
For sure.
Communication, for sure. And that's not just being able to communicate your thoughts, but also being able to listen to what their need as well. Yeah.
And then be able to follow through as
through
well. Follow through is huge.
Sure.
And if I can't help them, then we find someone who can.
Exactly.
There's so many great people out there with their skills, and we need to utilize those too.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. It was a nugget I didn't know before. You said you were in high school. You were the drum major. So leadership's been there even maybe before you realized it, right?
Yeah.
And then for us to think about even maybe high school days, college days, or since, there were probably people around you who you looked at and thought, I really admire that person in this leadership role, whether it was a teacher or band director or someone in the community. I'd love to hear more about some people. It doesn't have to be just one, but some people or some characteristics that you watched and observed in other people to say, that's the kind of leader I want to be someday.
Right. Yeah. I always wanted to be able to be the one that stood up in front of the band and directed. Actually, my mother was also the drum major of our marching band when she was back in school, way back in the day.
At the same high school.
Same high school.
That's the coolest.
Yeah.
Those are your genes.
So I guess so.
That's my nugget for the day, right there.
It's generational.
Yeah.
So that was just a really cool thing. And actually, I had chicken pox right before the tryouts. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to make them. And you always do it like right before or at the end of your sophomore year, so you can be a drum major junior, senior year.
When you come into summer camp, you're ready to go.
Yeah. And I did the audition with chicken pox on my face, and but I wasn't infectious anymore, so that was good. But and they asked some great questions. You do the skills test and all that, and the director asked me, well, what will you do if you don't get the position? And I was like, you know what? I've done all I can right now. If I don't get this position, I will probably quit band.
Okay.
And
that's a bold answer.
Right? Yeah. And I couldn't believe it came out of my mouth because I love music and I can't believe I would say something like this. And
this is my moment.
Right? Yeah. And so when I got it, I was just elated. But
they were relieved too that you weren't going to quit.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, good. We're keeping her.
But some of the people that like kind of mentored me in that area, of course, were the band directors. I'll mention name Gene Gregoire. He's no longer in the area, but he was an awesome person. I loved watching him and the way he led the band and talked to people. A lot of my music teachers. Somebody who's still in the area that I'm sure you know, Randy King.
Right.
I always talk about him. He was very instrumental even in my college days. I came back and asked some advice from him, which was great.
Resource.
Yeah, and he's just like, just stick with it. You can do this. If you finish this, you can do anything. So that was some great advice, right?
Speaking that kind of advice into our lives.
Yeah, and of course, our teachers at that point in my life. Those were the big ones.
Yeah.
Of course, my parents are behind me saying, you can do it. You can,
Go
the
for
whole,
it,
you can be
girl.
anything you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is my moment.
Yeah. Very cool.
Oh, I'm glad I asked you about that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Because those things are foundational. I mean, it's easy for us, as we get a few years from high school, we can kind of go, well, that was me in another life.
Right.
But I really think those roots of leadership, that foundation, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Even going back to mom and dad and family, and mom was the drum major, and some of the, some of those kinds of things where it's like, oh, you had foundations and models for leadership, and rather than it being, hey, we leave that behind when we become adults and do other things, I really believe we bring that with us.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a part of this bundle of who we are and what inspires us to now be in the role you're at the Community Foundation, and to raise money for the community, to raise money for the arts and performing aspects of our community. That all to me is very connected. And I love that. I love that you brought that with you to the role and the responsibilities you have today. It's not left behind.
Yeah. Fine arts has always been in the back of my mind when I took this position, or when I came to the Community Foundation. At the time, we were solely focused on early childhood education, workforce development, and land use and protection. But the fund that held those causes didn't include the fine arts, and even Norm Strasma, who hired me. Yeah, he's like, this is one spot that's missing, and I really want to see us at some point build this up, and now is our moment. So to be able to bring that to the Community Foundation, and my background in music and my passion for the arts, and some people may say, well, I don't see you at any of the events here in town, and I'm a busy person. And I feel bad that I don't make it to those things, but I'm there and I'm cheering them on in spirit, because they bring so much life to our community that you can't not support them.
Right.
Well, there's so much that you do that's in the background.
Yeah.
That needs to be done, especially for the arts, because I deal with creatives. I am a creative, and we're a little scattered most times. So having somebody like being able to keep those programs moving forward, keep having that having that person just have the back of the culture of the community is fantastic.
Yeah. And we do have such a rich, deep community of a variety of arts and performers and gifts and talents. And so because we have such a rich bundle of all that, it makes it harder for us to take in every aspect of it, right? Because there's theater, there's music, there's kids, there's adults, there's all kinds of wonderful things that are captured in the arts. That I find myself often just going, I don't want to miss that, but I'm not even in town that night.
I know, and it's been very disappointing to me. So if any of those groups are having rehearsal nights right before, invite me so I can at least see it, because usually I'm gone on the weekends, especially in the summertime. So
and that's when a lot of them are even holding events, performances, those kind of things. So I love seeing that connection between the creative arts community and the Community Foundation. That's very much showing up as a part of your heart and your work and what you're doing there. I love that.
Absolutely.
Since you love talking about strengths, and we touched a little bit on it before, I kind of want to. Has Nicole? Have you taken the strengths?
No, I haven't. I was thinking about that this morning. I wish I
fix that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, and I've taken those types of quizzes before, but do I really remember what it said about me? But I actually had a hard time with this question this morning. I'm like, what are my strengths? So I went to Mia, my colleague, and I'm like, what strengths do you think I have? And
what should I tell them?
I really put her on the spot this morning.
Yeah.
And she goes, you have such a positive outlook. And I was like, you're right.
Hey,
I know. Yeah. And then she also talked about that I listen, that I guide her to help her grow. She said I'm personable. I feel like I'm organized, or sometimes I don't feel like I'm very organized. But but I think those are some of my strengths. I And that's such a hard question to think
It
about to
is.
yourself.
Well, I totally agree. Like
Yeah.
when somebody asks me, and I was like, I have no idea. And then that's usually what I do. I'll ask Jeff. I'll ask somebody that's close to me. Like,
Right.
well, what are my strengths? And then once they're like telling you those things, like, oh yeah, you know what? Those are those. You're so close to it that you don't. It's taken for granted.
Yeah, like when we started to, when you told me we were going to have this conversation, I was like, and at first I didn't even realize it was around leadership, and I started to think about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Because it's just something you do.
Right.
It's not something you think about on a daily basis. You just do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that I think if we're thinking about leadership, we're probably thinking about it in preparation for, or in the aftermath. Sometimes if we're thinking, well, I wish that would have gone differently. But it's this ongoing build. And even going back to the strengths piece, that's one of the things as a strengths coach where most people who I work with initially have a hard time identifying their own strengths. Why is that, you ask? I think it's because, unfortunately, there's so much focus on the negativity. I can tell you what's wrong with Jeff, right?
Right.
And we can each do that. But when someone says, what are some of the best things about you? We kind of go, well, there's, and so that's one of the reasons I love the strengths approach is that it helps people to identify, these are some of the best things about me.
Yeah.
I can't do everything, but here's 5 or 6 areas where I'm really strong.
Right.
And here's how I show up and use my strengths in an effective way.
Right.
And Brian has a different set than I have. You have a different set than I, It's just that, to me, that's where it really, the magic of working with other people in a team is going, you have a set, I have a set, and collective we have these 10, 15 amazing gifts and talents that we can weave together.
Yeah.
That's when it's really exciting.
At our luncheon, I have to speak at the beginning a little bit and inspire people, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm writing this like the day before. And that was my thought is there's so much negativity in the world going on right now. And how can I put a positive spin on it? And I'll bring this up just briefly because I could go on forever about the word pivot.
Yeah.
And that's really what our whole annual luncheon was about, was just pivoting from the last 2 years and the things that we've had to deal with. And I came up with the phrase pivot with positivity.
Ooh,
don't make it negative, so something didn't work out. Oh, well.
What's the solution?
Do something new. Yeah. What's the solution?
Yeah.
So, I just really think that's so important to have a positive mindset and just move forward. You can't change what just happened. You can make it better. You can just grow and go forth.
Agreed.
So.
And I think we sometimes forget how much power we have in just how we choose to process and frame information and things that come our way.
Yeah.
To either obsess about the negativity or to say, you know what, that was a hard time, but here's some things I learned from it, and here's what I want to change going forward. And that can make us so much better when we think about it that way and utilize our brain power to say, okay, how can we make that better? How can we fix that? How can we fund this community project? I mean, that's part of what the foundation does, is to say, that's really important and we want to invest in that. Right here in our community.
That's when a nonprofit calls me that we've given money to, and we tell them, you have to use it for what you said you were going to do in your grant application, and they say, it's just not working out. Can we change that? And I'm like, yes, pivot. If it's not working, let's use the money towards something that is going to help your project or your program.
And by the fact that conversation is happening between a foundation and a grant recipient, is you can say, well, that would be an appropriate pivot. We would approve that. We would allow that because it's still at the heart of the investment you are making. Right. So again, communication is so critical that you're like, we're partners. Let's figure this out. Let's talk through this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's been a common through line with a lot of the discussions we've been having with other leaders is that they're like, well, yeah, we have a plan and then we have a goal. But how you get there, it can be a zigzag, it can be a straight line, it can go backwards.
It's never a straight line.
It's just the common theme of leadership is being able to kind of change directions and kind of like you still you still get there, but it's how you get there. Like it doesn't have it, and just because it didn't get there exactly how you envision it, that's okay. You know?
Right.
So I like pivot with positivity. I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
My guess is positivity would come up as well. That's one of the 34 strengths.
Oh, is it?
Strengths assessment.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that show up on your top results.
People always say, "Wow, you smile a lot." I'm like,
"Thank you,"
and they're like, "Good."
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Like who wants to be negative? It takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile.
It does.
Yeah,
I want to keep a youthful look.
Really hard at that. I'm glad you're not one of them.
I want those lines to be smiling.
Right.
Smiley wrinkles.
Yeah, they make creams for that. Just so you know.
I heard that, but man, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
So, after me just complimenting your positivity, we also realize that as leaders, sometimes we have disappointments, we have discouragement, or things that we have to kind of work our way through. When you have those moments, or those weeks, or even those months, sometimes when you're maybe not as motivated or you're somewhat discouraged, what are some ways that you kind of seek inspiration, or ways that you help yourself kind of pick up and dust off and move forward?
Yeah.
It's not easy, but what are some things that help you?
I found meditations really good. Although I haven't had a lot of time to do it recently.
I recently got back into it.
Right. Yeah, because it really helped me stay focused and start the day.
Clear your mind.
Yeah. Somebody asked me yesterday, I was preparing for another podcast that's coming in a month or two. The first thing he asked me was, so what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night? And I had to think about that and everything that's going on right now, and how do I get through my day with those thoughts, and so starting the day with that meditation and just having a positive outlook, and what are the top 5 things I'm going to knock out today? If I don't have anything that puts a wrench in it and I have to pivot and go on to the next thing. So
Does that discourage you? Because I'll make that list too, and then sometimes sometimes one things and sometimes no things get crossed off that list, and it's like, and then for me it's like, oh man, that was kind of a bummer of a day.
Yeah,
it discourages me, but then I'm just like, you know what? But then I take a minute to reflect and what were some of the little victories to celebrate.
Right, so. Exactly. Case in point, yesterday I had only 3 things on my list to do, and I sort of got to one. It's still not finished today. Hopefully that's going to get finished, but it's because I had other and more important things that came up that I needed to deal with.
That's a priority decision.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so that takes a good mindset, to know what's more important at the moment. Like, can this other thing sit and wait? It's tough.
Yeah, I think about those as my has to get done today list and my like to get done today list. And those things that may be on my like to do list, sounds like some of those where you're like, I was hoping for today, but another higher priority came along, so I'm going to move those over to Friday. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because we make a priority decision, and that's often people over processes for me.
Right. Yeah.
And
So me and another colleague of mine, we talk about, we leave one day completely open, try not to have any meetings on that day.
I love that.
Typically on Friday, so that you can catch up on everything that you wanted to get done, that you thought you would get done, and really focus on it. And so. Yeah,
that's a practice that I've started building in a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Just to identify a day and to say, that day's blocked. And then the benefit is I only have something added to that or included in that day if I look at that and go, you know what, this is an urgent thing for Brian. He really needs to talk to me about it. So then my perspective is, sure, I got all day. What time's good for you?
Right.
Yeah. This morning I planned on going over your questions and preparing.
I knew you would.
And I hated that I was leaving it to the last minute. But something else came up this morning, and I am sending emails left and right trying to make sure that I've got people on board for a project that we're doing.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes
so that was more important at the moment, and I knew that we would get through this fine.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Even though I get nervous about things
No, we just have these conversations, and it's all good.
Yeah.
What else are you thinking? What are we at time wise?
Yeah,
we can
we're
keep
okay.
talking.
Yeah, we're okay. Probably another 5 or so,
Okay.
and maybe give you another question too. We've talked about your early days and kind of the foundation of leadership and things that you do for your team as a leader and giving them space to learn and grow. What would be some things that you do personally to grow as a leader yourself, to say, oh, I really like to listen to podcasts, I really like to read this author or this type of book, or I like to hear speakers on certain... What are some things that you do to say, I love doing this to help me grow as a leader?
Absolutely.
And a person.
So there's one person who sends a blog like almost daily,
right?
Called Dan Rockwell, and his blog's called Leadership Freak. Yeah. And I don't always get a chance to read them, but I'll save them for like my off day, right?
Right.
And read it and just get some nuggets out of that. You know, what's going on, what questions are being asked of him, and then he replies to that. Cool. So that's pretty neat. I've been listening to Mel Robbins a lot. I love her 5-Second Rule book. Actually, I listen to audio on tape, and that's a great one. I use that a lot when I'm having a hard day, or if there's a task that I'm just like, oh, I really don't want to do that one. It doesn't sound fun to me, but I know I got to do it. And it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
go.
Just do it, you know. And I do that in the mornings to get up and get my workout in. I've really had to do that one a lot lately, but now with the great weather we've got going on, it hasn't been too bad. Yeah. What are some other ways that I work on my leadership skills? You know, getting out there and talking with other leaders has been great. Just going and having a coffee with someone and talking about what their struggles are, what my struggles are, and maybe one of us has a solution. Yeah. So bouncing those ideas off of other leaders has been phenomenal.
That was the genesis of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was taking, Jeff was mentoring me, and he was, you know, at this very last thing he said to me, well, how are you going to keep moving forward? I was like, well, I want to talk to other leaders.
Yeah.
And then I thought about, like, well, how do I do that? And like, well, you know, we could make a podcast out of it.
Right.
Capture all those great ideas.
Yeah.
So because I feel that it's great to bounce those questions off of those leaders, and also be able to like and see that, like, oh, your response is very different than mine.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I want to like take a note of that or something. You know?
Yeah, it shines a light on an area that maybe I didn't think of or would occur to me. Then I can say, oh, I think I can use that. No, that's a good nugget. I want to use that. So that's why, as we're talking and interviewing people, I'm taking notes and writing things down, because there's always some good additional things.
Other good leaders. Yeah. No other good leaders.
Exactly.
and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah. And sometimes you feel like, am I a good leader? Am I good enough to be sitting at this table? And we've got to shift that mindset. If you're at the table, if somebody invited you, they know that you're a good leader.
You've already gotten there.
So so a lot of it's a mind game too, to me, you know, because I have not met a person that has been so confident that they've not felt when they've walked into the room, like, I don't know anybody here. And I'm like, oh, I have to talk to people now. What do I do? Like, and so just building up your confidence, I've really had to work on that. I've never really thought that I was, you know, the best at something, you know, that I could be the expert on it.
Yeah.
But then I remind myself, no, you are, because you're here and you're doing it, and you are just as capable as anybody else. And that's my mom in my head again, going, you could do it. You can do anything you want.
Could. Yeah.
I wouldn't even have thought to apply for a management job at a music store had it not been for her.
Yeah. Right.
She's like, well, and it was an assistant manager position. I'm right out of college. She goes, well, you can do that.
Of course.
And I'm like, can I? Of course I can.
Yeah, we talk ourselves out of things.
We do.
So much.
We do. Yeah. And it's, we need to stop that. Yeah. We need to stop the negative mindset and be more positive.
And I love that, what your mom did. And,
you
know, a lot of people maybe in similar circumstances started at home, hopefully.
Yeah.
But maybe it's teachers or others that they've been encouragers for us along the way to go,
Right.
oh, I can totally see you doing that. We just need more encouragers to say, you know what, that's going to be hard, but I think you've got it. You know, and worst case scenario is go for it, give it all you've got, and if you don't get as far as you wanted, okay, you still got as far as you were able to at that point in your life.
Right. Doesn't
And
mean
the
it's over.
courage to just go after it is so important that I believe more often than not, when we tackle those things, we go, I don't know if I'm up to this, but I'm going to give it all in, go for it.
Right.
And we find out I can do that.
Yeah.
I am good enough. I am able to do that.
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, yes, I can.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just even picking up the phone. Like you think, well, am I important enough to be, will they even talk to me?
Right.
You know, and it's like, well, of course they will because I'm so-and-so and I
I'm
can.
not nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not. No.
Yeah.
Everybody's
I just
somebody.
think it's crazy how we play those mind games with ourselves.
Yeah,
We
and the
do.
more we can push that out and encourage each other, and that's a part of leadership to me.
Yeah.
Is to say, y'all can do this thing or this event or this project. We can only do it because we're all here.
Right.
And realizing that it's a we thing.
Yes.
And drawing that out of other
Yes.
people,
Yes,
that's
yes,
a
yes.
great part of leadership. for
Right.
me.
I love collaboration.
Mhm.
We wouldn't be doing half the things we are in this community without it.
Yeah.
You know?
The other day, I had someone ask me, you know, like, what's something you do that brings you the most joy? And my response to her was helping people achieve things they didn't know they could do.
Mm-hmm.
That was what came to mind, and that's what you're talking about. Going, just step out on the high dive and go for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
You know, see what happens. But if you don't go for it,
You'll never know.
it's never going to happen. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't move forward if you don't.
No. Then
Make
that's
that
another
leap.
layer of fear we've let stand
Yes.
between us and that thing we really would like to do. And we're really excited about it, but we're a little afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that self-reflection is important. That inner voice is important.
Yeah.
But to get so afraid and get so consumed in that inner voice that you're not moving forward. That's the part. You know.
Daily affirmations have helped me with that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
For sure. Just saying those, especially when I'm feeling the fear.
Yeah, right.
Like I did it on the way over here.
It's gonna
I'm
be
good
fun.
enough. I belong here.
Yes,
I'm,
totally.
Yeah, and it can be something
Yeah.
like that. It can be something as simple as like, this is going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I wake up and I don't feel that,
Mm-hmm.
I will often say over.
You talk
sometimes
yourself
10
into
times,
it.
Say, this is going to be a good day. This
Yeah.
is going to be a good day.
Yeah.
And we start finding out that our perspective and what our expectation is often shapes how that day
Mhm.
goes,
Yeah, totally.
rather
Right.
than being like, oh, but that just happened to be a good day.
Yeah.
Well, maybe part of it was that was my expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, because we were going to be having this conversation, and I love doing this,
Uh-huh.
what I said today was, this is going to be a great day.
Great day. Aw,
Yes.
thanks.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we covered a lot of things.
I think we got
this,
it.
This
Yeah.
was a great conversation,
Yeah.
Nicole. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Can I just leave you with something?
Yes, please do.
I'm not going to get teary-eyed.
If you do, it's okay. It's
No.
just us.
Yeah, it's just us.
It's just us. Don't put that in there.
Okay.
But anyway, so I talked about my grandfather being a listener.
Yes.
Mhm.
And when he passed, there was a piece of paper in his wallet that nobody knew he had.
Okay.
And I keep it on my fridge. And I hadn't looked at it in a really long time, but I was like, you know what? I need to read this. And so, if you don't mind,
No,
I'm going to read it.
I love it already.
And it just speaks to me about being a leader.
Okay.
Okay. I have to live with myself. And so I want to be fit for myself to know. I want to be able, as days go by, always to look myself straight in the eye. I don't want to stand with the setting sun and hate myself for the things I've done. I want to go out with my head erect. I want to deserve all men's respect. And here in the struggle for fame and pelf, I want to be able to like myself. I don't want to look at myself and know that I'm a bluster, a bluff, an empty show. I never can hide myself from me. I see what others may never see. I know what others may never know. whatever happens, I want to be self-respecting and conscience-free. Author is unknown, but he held this
so powerful
in his wallet, and it just reminds me, we're human, and so make the best decisions that we can in our life, and hold your head up high for the decisions that you've made. And
what a legacy
so
to have someone in your life from so many years ago to lay that kind of foundation,
right,
and to be that daily reminder of the person and the leader that you want to be.
Yeah.
I really hope you'll let us use that.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I wanted to read that. I just thought, this was a perfect opportunity to show everybody or tell everybody about that. And and I think
you are good enough.
You are good enough. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Oh, I love that. And then he carried that with him in his wallet.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just like a very personal thing for him.
It was very,
So neat. I love that.
Yeah. Anyway.
What a great way to end.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the bow on top of the conversation.
Man, yeah.
So good.
I think best ending.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nicole so far.
Yeah.
Ooh.
True.
Yeah.
Not kidding. That's why as you're reading that, I'm like,
Yeah.
please let it.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed that, because I know, and like I said, I got teary-eyed. I hadn't read that in a long time, and just reflecting back on it and how I got it,
Yeah.
it's just
And see,
something special.
That kind of thing right there that you just shared, that is a part of what leading people, whether it's a conversation or a podcast or a recording, whatever, it's like, that's so often what is missing. We don't let people see that tenderness of us, but it shapes who we are.
Oh, it's
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
As leaders, and there's so much power in that.
Right.
That I'm like, oh, if we can just let those things be shared in places that's at the core of who we are as a human being, as someone who's loved by our family, and as a leader, and then to share that vibe, to share that insight, we need lots more of that. And that's what I love about leadership. That's why I love talking about leadership, because that kind of stuff right there, that's what gets me up in the morning. Because you were asking earlier, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, that gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It just speaks to the man that he was, and how he led his life, and how he was that listener, and how, he just, I love it.
And it was being delivered through you all these years later.
Right,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome legacy. Yeah.
And something, just know that everyone's a leader in some form or fashion. If you're not in a leadership role, like what I'm in, if you're a mother, a father, a grandparent, you lead your household. You lead. Everybody leads. You just need to recognize where that is in your life.
I'm realizing that more and more. Because
people are looking at you and looking up to you.
Yeah.
Somebody is watching each of us in a good way.
Yeah.
To say, I like what I'm seeing there, and I want to be more that way.
Yeah.
And I think we all want to be those kind of people for whoever is watching and listening and learning from our lives.
Yeah.
That's good.
Definitely.
That's good.
Next week, we'll be joined by the founder of Highline Leadership Development Group, Liz Heyman.